Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Oh no.
How's it going, buddy? I finally fixed it. How was that? That took way too long. We went
Okay.
into the wrong intro and I was muted. I followed the Montreal Canadiens effort to a T tonight. I am right there with the Montreal Canadiens. Thankfully, you can hear me now, right? How's it going, Kay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
It's going fine. It's going fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. Everything's good.
we're obviously tonight very frustrating game for the Montreal Canadiens, just in the fact that they didn't even have that comeback, right? Because we're used to them giving the other team 2-3 goals and coming back.
Yeah.
But that's not a sustainable strategy. So we have a lot to talk about tonight. I don't want to dwell on the loss too long though. And we'll see what our good friends in the chat are saying. How's it going, David? Hey, Dennis, how's it going? Bonjour, outrage. And Remily is always here. Terry is here, and so is Claire. How's it going, Claire? I think this was the type of loss that you just absolutely forget it. I always say there's some value in losses, but right now, I think if you're the Montreal Canadiens, the only value you take out of this is saying Samuel Montembeault is tired. We
Mhm.
need to get more starts
That's-
for Jakob Dabesh. That's the only thing I take out of this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would also say that I am so excited for Caden Goulet to be back.
Right?
For more than just me being me reasons, I do think that this is a really great timing. So really keeping my fingers crossed.
Well, we'll have to figure out pairings, but we saw tonight Matheson and Carrier. They, listen, it's difficult to play the Goulet minutes. We know this for a fact. But tonight was Matheson at his worst. And I don't love criticizing him because he was trying. He was legitimately trying at the end, but every single play by Matheson ended up in the back of the net. So with Goulet coming back, it's perhaps an opportunity to give Matheson fewer minutes. I wouldn't even consider breaking up the Hudson Struble pairing because even tonight they had positive possession numbers. So we'll have to figure out where Goulet goes. If you're in the chat right now, let us know. Let us know where you want Goulet to play because again, I won't be happy if you're going to say top pairing with Hudson. That's a good pairing. You don't break that up, but clearly the Habs missed Goulet, and tonight was really strong evidence. So hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. Have you heard anything about the exact date? Because he's on the trip. He's going to play, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't heard anything, especially because they didn't practice today. So we didn't get any update on that, but I'm manifesting. Does that count?
Sure.
What if Mark, what if I say next game and let's just all talk it into existence, right?
Let's talk it into existence. I honestly think that just his presence will be, I always talk about Goulet's not so great numbers. The fact of the matter is, and Andrew pointed this out last feed, once you switch it to relative, which means you consider the usage, they become
Hmm.
decent. Not like they're not above average, not below average, they're average. But considering his
Yeah.
usage, that's not bad. And we've seen both Carrier and Matheson just flail, in those minutes. Alexandre Carrier, before the Goulet injury, was rocking close to 60% possession, expected goals. He's down to about 44% now since the injury.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
being Goulet is not easy. Let's put it that way.
No, also just let me just a side petty little note, may I
I love
say.
being petty.
I did see some people, yes, I also love being petty. I did see some people, and this is very rare. I'm just like finding a person to be mad about, really, more than anything. It's not a lot of people who said it, but the one or the few people who said it, just want to say, people who said that Caden Goulet only looked good to start the season because he was playing, or like in that patch because he was playing next to Alexander Carrier. Guys, sometimes guys just work together. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be that they play well together, and also it can be that he is a good player. And also it can be that Alexander Carey really misses his work husband, as I like to call him. So I think that's, I think they're just yeah, it's
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 both.
well, I mean, They probably miss him gloriously coming out of the shower after shampooing. I'm sure Gouli shampoos his hair like 5 times per day. I guarantee you that. But it's worth it because he has that glorious mane like a lion. So obviously the sweet hair per 60 is going up once Gouli comes back. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But just the mere fact that you're here, listen, on vous apprécie. We really appreciate all of you. So if you can spread the word, we appreciate that. But just the fact that you're here, that means a ton for us. All right. 6-1 loss. We're going to move on real quick, but the first thing I want to discuss in length, Samuel Montembeault is exhausted. It couldn't be more clear right now. And the first 3 goals, I'll be honest, they weren't on him. Those are triple screens, double screen, a double screen at 4-on-4. But that 5th goal, the one that fell out of his glove, that is the ultimate sign that not only is a goalie tired, they lost their confidence. And if Montembeault loses his confidence right now, the Habs are fucked. Let's just be quite honest about that. So I'm confused. I'll admit, I feel like I've kind of warmed up to St. Louis recently, but his goalie usage confuses me. I'll be honest. I feel like he really fails miserably when it comes to goalies.
It's hard to parse out. So I wonder if he thinks that this is him doing Monty a solid, as in reiterating the fact that he is the number 1 goalie.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what he's thinking, because I think he's not dumb. He knows that people were like, when Dobie came in hot, right? Like had that like great start. People were, giving Monty a harder time. So I wonder if this is him overcorrecting. In which case it's this can't keep happening. It's just not. First of all, you can't let Dobesh go that long without playing.
He's ice cold.
And you know what? I'm almost glad, even though I wish that Marty had pulled Monty earlier. Yeah. And even though it didn't really matter at the end of the game, I'm glad that Dobesh went in, because at least he played like, 15 minutes of the game. But at least he played a little, right? Like
it's his first 9 minutes since March 12th. So those were important minutes. No, it's true. It's yeah. I mean, that's assuming he's going to play one of the games, right? Like the Thursday, Friday. St. Louis has to get Dobesh in net for the next game, right? Let me know what you think in the comments, but I think that would be insane not to use him in the next game. It's Philly, so you have a good chance of winning too. Pardon me?
My anxiety brain says that he might think that if he doesn't, then if he doesn't go Montembeault again, then this will affect his confidence. That is my anxiety brain talking, and I wonder if that's Marty's like overthinking, overanalyzing brain that will also talk to him. I really hope not.
Yeah, but I mean, you make a good point. That's exactly what he mentioned during the pressers when people were saying, "Hey, like, do you want to give that young goalie who was winning games some starts?" And he's saying, "Hey, the reason we got here is Montembeault," and I can respect that. I absolutely respect that, but I don't feel like it's insulting if St. Louis says, "Hey, buddy, like you brought us all the way here. Take a little rest. We need you at your best for the playoffs," right? And this is what you and I were talking about earlier. If the Habs make the playoffs, they need Montembeault. They're not going to be starting Dobesh, let's be perfectly honest. They need Montembeault rested, but they also need a good goalie to make the playoffs. So they're kind of stuck in that situation where you can't grind Montembeault into dust. And that's kind of what St. Louis is doing right now. So I would really like to see Dobesh get the Philly game. I feel it's winnable. They absolutely are not playing well right now, and Montembeault needs the rest. So to me, it's a slam dunk. Dobesh starts on Thursday.
I think his fire would go well against Philly too. Like if Philly is anywhere near what we expect Philly to be, which I think they've lost that identity recently over the last few years, but they still are Philly. So I think Dobesh would play up to a game like that, where the opponent isn't necessarily like super hard to deal with, but it's a tough environment. That building, I bet, is hard to play in as an opposing player.
Well, I mean, it's not the Philadelphia Forum where back in the day they'd throw batteries and they'd boo Santa, but it's still not great, right? We have some pretty good comments here. Remeli brings up a good point. Martin St. Louis does have a weird goalie usage, but he always had a great number 1 when he was playing. And that's true. It might be influence on how he uses number 1. That's, let's be honest, he had no coaching experience. So most of his experience is just coming from playing. That might be playing a part. That's a really good point from Remeli. Claire mentions, what do you think of this comment by Pierre Maguire? I don't even need to read the rest. It's dumb. It's a terrible comment. No, I'm just joking. People are way too mean towards Pierre Maguire. He says the NHL has Dobesh totally figured out. Shoot high and it'll go in. Okay. That's like saying shoot where the goalie won't be and you'll see where the goalie isn't, and it'll go in the back of the net. Dobesh has what? He's running a 915 save percentage. That's in the upper half of the best goalies in the NHL. I'd argue they haven't figured him out yet, but I don't. Did you see that? Did you see what McGuire was talking about? Did he show any evidence? Because listen, if you pick out the corner, that tiny corner, it'll score on most goalies. That's pretty much how hockey works.
My thing isn't even the glove with Dobesh. It's more just I just wonder if he's a little too into playing the puck.
Active.
I just remember the last few times that he started, there was like one or two that I was like, "Ooh, that's a learning moment for him as a rookie." But I don't like. I could see him being. Listen, every goalie has their weaknesses. Everybody figures it out. I'm sure you saw that. Like people are like shooting at Monty from like. They don't like. Of course, they try to battle near
They're
the
going
net,
distance on
but
Monty
they
right
throw
now.
from a distance because they know Monty's weakness too. And which is kind of what Ramelli says in the chat is replies and says that's dumb. NHL figured out Monty too. Just shoot from far away, and that's how it works. They figure you out. You have to change. Then they figure that out. You change. It's like a power play.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Devin Montembeault first shot was a triple screen. The second shot was a double tip. The third shot was a double screen. So Jakub Dobesh doesn't save those. Well, maybe he's bigger, so he just like, just the fact that he covers more net. But those first three goals were not on Samuel Montembeault. Now, the fourth and the fifth, the thing is with Montembeault is when things start to go wrong, he kind of derails a little bit, and you could tell. But I don't think Connor Hellebuck would have made it much better with a triple screen, a double screen, and a double tip. That to me, what I saw in that first play was Mike Matheson losing his guy all night long, but also on that play, Christian Dvorak missing his guy, and also Alexandre Carrier failing to clear the net. Those to me were the biggest issues there, and I don't think it really depends on the goalie. But all this being said, Montembeault needs a rest. He's so tired. It shows that he's tired. So I don't understand why they didn't start him in Colorado. To me, that was the game. Start him against Colorado and then back again tonight. But as you mentioned, you're doing this to show trust in Montembeault. The issue is that
it's almost backfiring.
Well, and Kay, there's no room for error anymore. Like the Habs are still control their destiny. If they start winning, they will make the playoffs. But they can't sacrifice points for emotion right now. And keeping Montembeault as a starter no matter what, that's a bit of an emotional reaction from a guy who recognizes the player has given him a lot of value. But right now, throw emotions aside, you got to go, in my opinion, you got to rest Montembeault and give Dobesh that start. Claire mentions, it was dumb to me too. Okay, well, here's the thing with saying the book on goalies, it's always top corner. So yeah, if you perfectly pick out that top corner shot, you're going to score. Absolutely. If you manage to get the puck tipped by three guys and you have two screens, you're going to score. I don't know if that's a book on the goalies per se, more just what shots end up scoring in the NHL. But I remember McGuire saying they had figured out Price as a goalie like year 3. So this is something that he said several times.
I don't think that's,
Yeah. Shoot where he isn't. Hey.
But it's also his defenseman. Let's be very, very clear. I just saw the game scorecard. Matheson and Carrier are not the eye test matches. So I'm, of course, show me, what is it? Like, it's the coach. Show me a good coach. Show me a good goalie. But like, show me a struggling goalie. Look at his defenseman, right? Like,
absolutely. Rémi, you mentioned on the goal 3 screen moved before the shot left the stick. Doesn't matter. He was set, right? So as you set, the screen was there. So that's how the goalie works. Now, don't forget, I was a goalie, so I actually know what they're looking at when they're playing, so I can understand it a little bit better. But listen, you can't tell me in that first period that an amazing goaltender would have changed it. Like the Habs got absolutely railroaded, and as Kay mentioned, a big part of it was Matheson and Carrier just getting, just absolutely eating shit every single shift, And even towards the end of the game, I want to give Matheson some credit. He was trying, but it felt like every single pinch ended up with a scoring chance. And that's the Matheson. That's the Matheson math, I guess, right? You're going to get some of those.
Yeah, that's the Matheson roller coaster. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So what we want to do now, actually, we'll hear from our fantastic sponsors. But coming out of the quick break, we're going to talk about the upcoming games because the Montreal Canadiens, even though tonight they didn't go all that well, they definitely control their destiny. The Flyers are coming up. It's a perfect opportunity to get back into that momentum. Caden Gooley could be coming back. To me, he has to play, right? Like, I mean,
we're manifesting.
we're manifesting, and it's just a great opportunity for the Canadiens to get back on track. So we will talk about that after we hear it from our friends at Inchu Bijou.
We are so excited to tell you about our new partner here at Game Over Montreal, a delightfully witchy goth and glam jewelry store making handcrafted art that varies from subtle silver to gold pieces to glamorous bespoke. Inchu Bijou is more than just a company. They've built a community through advocacy and a welcoming attitude that has made them an institution here in Montreal. Located in the historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, Inchu Bijou also runs seasonal themed markets called Maleficarum Market, or Marché Maleficarum en français, where artisans from all over get together and showcase and sell their wares. Drop by 4000 Rue Saint-Ambroise, Suite 278, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team, or head to inchubijou.com and enhance your style. The next Maleficarum Market will be on the weekend of February 8th and 9th. We'll see you there. Now, let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video.
All right, that's enough. That's enough of that ad. I love Andrew, but hey, look, everything moved real quick. Hey, look, our period thing moved there. We're going to go back to the first period because it looked better. I love Andrew, but we've already asked our good friends on the feed to like our show 1,000 times. They know what they're doing. All right. Philadelphia coming up on Thursday. They're struggling. They're out of the playoffs. They were in the same situation as Montreal maybe, 3 months ago? One of them kind of went upwards. The other one went downwards. If Caden Gooley comes back, this is an opportunity for the Habs to really, really gain some momentum and completely forget tonight's embarrassing effort. Not that embarrassing, but I'd say lifeless to start with. That was their effort tonight.
It's embarrassing because from a fan point of view, I think it's more embarrassing because it's more just people were really watching this game. I think because it was like both two
big for the
teams
Blues,
that had really climbed their way back in. And of course, it's not really affecting like in terms of they're not the same conference, so it's not affecting in that way. But it is, two teams have crawled right back into it, and one of them is showing a little bit more than the other. So hey, I would simply play better if I were the Habs.
Why don't they just win more games? Let's be honest.
Exactly.
I think the key here is deciding where you put Gooley, right? Hudson and Struble, just absolutely beautiful. Now, someone mentioned today, because I wrote a long analysis piece on my website about it, and they mentioned that the reason they're so good is they're getting a lot of offensive zone starts. And it was actually a very, very good point that I had ignored. But it's not to the point where, their numbers are so good that they're reaching like elite numbers. They're 60% control type of thing on shots, expected goals, high danger chances. And high danger chances have been the bane of the Habs since St. Louis took over. So I don't change that pairing, but Martin St. Louis might change that pairing, eh? Like I get the sense that Strubel's going down to the third pairing once Gooley's back.
The practice lines, the first time we saw Gooley full practice, the last time they practiced, were him and Struble switching in and out. I don't think that's a great idea. I wouldn't mess with that, but I guess the big question is, and everybody's asking this question, is who do you take out? And second question, who would Mike Matheson? No, I was gonna say who would Mike Matheson take out? No, who would Marty take out? I think those are two
two different answers
that we're giving.
I wouldn't mind seeing Mike Matheson on the third pairing with Arbor Xhekaj. And if I may, right now we're seeing a tired Matheson too. Like, don't forget, I know people don't like him, but he absorbs a ton of ice time for the Habs. Like, he is playing a lot, especially now with Gooley out. So I wouldn't mind bringing Matheson down to a third pairing where your quality of competition goes down. He can excel a little bit more. And then he's fresh on the power play, because we've been seeing him make mistakes on the power play that are a little unusual even for Matheson. And it's just clearly he's tired. So I wouldn't mind seeing, obviously, my first pick is David Savard. You got to go. No offense, but statistically, there's not even a choice to be made here. And I wouldn't mind seeing Carrier Gooley and then Xhekaj Matheson. Now, might hurt Matheson's pride a little bit, but putting him in that third pairing role will make life easier on him. But we all know Martin St. Louis is not going to do that. What's Martin St. Louis going to do?
Before this game, I would have said Struble was coming out. I wonder if it's Xhekaj. I don't know. It's just, and I don't think either of those players, I don't think Arbor or Struble would deserve to be out. I think we both agree that if this was truly a merit-based system, which is never going to be, no matter
Hmm.
how much a coach may say, it would be subvert. But I don't think it's going to be subvert because it's going to have to be either. But then that's the thing too, right? Like Mark, that's the question. If you take out Jack Guy, what you're doing is you're putting Gooley on the third pairing, aren't you? Or are you moving Struble down to the
Yeah,
third?
yeah. I
Which
think
Joan
what's going to
isn't a great.
happen, automatically is Struble down to the third pairing with Savard, Jack Guy out. I think that's which statistically is the worst decision. Like by
Yeah.
far the worst decision. Now, Jack Guy hasn't been at his best either lately, so I don't, hey, if he sits a game or two, not a big deal. But there's 12 games left. Like they can't afford to be
Mhm.
experimenting right now. To me, screw the emotions. Who cares who's a veteran? Whoever's playing best gets to play. And sorry, David, but he can still be in the room. Like go guys, go. But I just don't see
What is it that you say? If he's good in the room, leave him in the room.
right. Um, but the thing is, there's actually a pretty good comment here for not actually. It's just a good comment from Outrage. Um, he calls him math chaos. It's pretty good. Might not be a great pairing for Jack Eye. Yeah, perhaps not. But it's not a great pairing with Carrier. Um, Matheson, well, everyone that played with Saval has struggled. And like other than Hudson, there's not a ton of people that Matheson has statistically thrived with. And I don't think you want to toss him back on that top pairing. But he might. We might jump and see Matheson, Hudson, Carrier, possibly Struble, then Savard. Who am I forgetting now?
Hayden Gooley?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Then Gouli would go on that second, and then maybe you drop down Savard with Struble. That would be your third pairing there. I think that's probably a little more along the lines. I get the sense it's Jack Eye is going to be the one that the odd man out.
For this game, I would have said Struble.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that Struble's played so well on that pairing with
So
Hudson is gonna buy him some time. And then when that third pairing doesn't go well, because it's not gonna go well, he's gonna slot out. Jack Eye's gonna come back, and we're gonna be back where we started, except we'll have Caden Gooley. So at least I'll feel better.
as long as it's good for K, we're happy. I mean, the only and I like that idea for game 32, but we're game 71 right coming up, and man, every single point, like the Habs will make or miss the playoffs by 1 point, statistically speaking, right now.
Mhm.
So if you drop a point in Philly, like your life just got much harder. So I hope they take difficult decisions that make them a little uneasy, because I think that's what you need to do at this time in the season. Trizak mentions, what about Savon?
Morelli says
Sorry, go ahead.
we interpret each other. I just think Morelli says if MSL doesn't sit Savard, it's another rookie coach mistake. I think that's a coach mistake. I think coaches across the board do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, you said Trzak?
What about Savon on the bench as a coach when he sits? Do you remember Mike Komisarek did that after Lucic stole his soul? They brought him on the bench actually, and the whole thing was, oh, he's going to be the captain, he's going to be the coach. It never really worked out that way, but I like the idea of player coaches. And Savon right now, I'd love him to be, if he'd be there just to offer the experience to kind of mentor people, but not touch the puck, we'd be happy. That being said, Savard wasn't the worst defenseman tonight. Jack Eye was worse than he was, and Carrier and Matheson obviously struggled. So maybe it's a little unfair that I'm picking on Savard. It's more of a long-term thing. Like I'm looking at the grand scheme of things, and I just don't see where he fits
I
right
think.
now. Yeah. Now the other thing we have to consider is that the Montreal Canadiens have the discipline of a drunken band of pirates, right? Like they're going to take 45 penalties per game. And that means Savard gets a lot of ice time. If you're using other guys, they're going to get a little more tired. So there is some value there, but I don't think it's enough really to make the decision to keep him on the ice, at least in my opinion. However, Martin St. Louis, he's all about that respect and whatnot, and I think he respects Savard a lot.
I think, like you said, with the but just to touch on the penalty kill thing, uh, it's a little bit like one in, one out because you'll have Gooley coming back, and listen. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but
Mhm.
I've noticed that Marty doesn't ease guys back in.
No,
Um,
right into the
he
fire.
really doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see a world in which, let's say Savard sits. Let's just argue Savard sits. uh, Gooley will just play the penalty kill instead, and I think that he's completely fine there.
Yeah, Gooley doesn't get power play time. It's not. It's just not a thing he gets.
It's fine. He
Yeah.
won't miss. He won't miss it.
But it's funny because when you look at his production, you realize hey, Gooley produces a decent amount. Then you check all the other defensemen around his age, his ice time, they all have about the same amount of points, but they have 20 power play points like tacked on to it. So it's, when we think about Gouli, we have to. I think the stretch without him was a pretty good realization that he has the most difficult minutes possible in the NHL. And as you mentioned, St. Louis doesn't ease guys in. Like he tossed Gouli in there into the fire, right? Like immediately, baptism by fire, thrown to the wolves. All those fun idioms. And I don't mind it to a certain extent because if you're ready to play, you're ready to play. But what we're seeing here right now is that no one else can take Gouli's minutes. So yeah, he's really gotten that baptism by fire taken down. But if he's out of the lineup, those minutes that he liberates are hellish, are absolutely hellish. So the frustrating, he gets injured a lot, but Caden Gouli plays the toughest minutes in the Habs, and this last stretch was perfect evidence that we need to say, you know, next time when you look at his stats,
Put
maybe
some respect on his name.
exactly. Next time when I look at his stats, maybe I'll take a step back and be like, yeah, he's been a negative possession player for the last 3 years. But there's a reason, right? Like there's an absolute reason for that. And, you know, maybe I've been a little too harsh towards Caden Gouli.
I was also saying in terms of coming back from injury too, I've noticed that Marty also doesn't ease guys back from injury. So either way, new guy, injury, Marty says, you're going to sink or swim, buddy.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, you know what? I'd rather that than them rushing them back and then slow, like the old Habs system was, maybe they're ready. We'll see how they go. We'll take it easy on them. Now they're being pretty tentative with putting guys back in the ice.
Oh, you said you're ready?
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, now you're ready. You're good to go 100%. But I like that more than we'll throw him out there and see if he gets injured. And then he immediately gets injured. Remedy mentions Armia is obviously hurt. Yeah, I mean, and Josh Anderson's still not at 100%, right? Like we saw that tonight. He's still hurting. Rest him in place 7.
Stopping him though.
Yeah. Well, he showed a little bit of mettle tonight, and that was great. I was happy to see that. It was a little too late, right? Him and Jack I was like, guys, that's kind of the Chris Neal way of doing it. The game was out of reach, and then they went at the last minute, but they showed a little effort.
It feels just emotional.
Exactly.
I think at that point, it's not even strategic. I think they were literally just mad.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Same.
The locker room tonight after the loss was either going to be deathly silent or you're going to have a lot of yelling from the leaders, one or the other, right? Like that's going to be, but I get the sense it's going to be pretty damn silent because they were embarrassed tonight. They couldn't even get their physical game going, right? Like I feel like the Blues were more physical than they were, and that's rare for the Habs these days. So especially since the Blues controlled the play. Yeah, tonight was probably the most frustrating game of the year. But coming up, Philadelphia is a mess. This is an opportunity for the Canadiens to completely throw that aside. You want to put like a 6 spot up on Philadelphia or a 7 spot. And the Habs, even though they didn't respond tonight, they've done a pretty good job responding to poor losses in the past, right? Or at least maybe I'm thinking wishful thinking, but I feel like they've done a pretty good job responding the next game after they have a terrible game.
Well, I mean, other than that spiral that they went in.
Which one? Which spiral? There's always the Habs always have a few
one
spirals
right before the Four Nations
and a few streaks. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
that one was gross.
They can do themselves a favor by starting Jakub Dobeš, even though the book is out on him, says Pierre McGuire. I talked to some professional goalies about that, and the first thing though it was Caden Primo at one point. He's like, "Let me guess, the book is shoot where I'm not." I'm like, "Yeah, man, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it." You know. So, speaking of Primo, doing excellent in the AHL, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Montembeault or Dobeš. I'm just happy to see him. Like when they lost Dobeš, they lost their starter, and there was a top team in the AHL. That kind of sucks. You know, the NHL always takes priority, but with Primo there, the Rocket are back to being the best team in the AHL, and that's a big deal. You got to learn to win early. You don't learn to win through rebuilds. That's tough. So they're learning to win in the AHL, and Caden Primo has bounced back in a big way. I don't think he has a future with Montreal. But the fact that he's played well to like play out the season, I think that will reignite his career either in the AHL, the KHL, NHL, who knows. I'm just happy that Caden Primo's getting some consistency because it shows that he's not the worst goalie in the world when he knows what he's doing. You know, he knows when he's going to start, so he has time to prepare, and he's been excellent.
Speaking of the Flyers, though, I did just check their record. They did lose very embarrassingly 7-2 to the Maple Leafs.
Oh, no.
So it's going to be... I guess it's going to be interesting to see in a way which team comes out, you know, with their pants more on fire.
It's got to be the
both of them
Habs
lost.
though, right? Like they're the only ones.
It has to.
They're
It
the only
has
ones that have a
to.
playoff chance, right? Trezek saying MS Martin Saint Louis is gonna wheel Montembeault's exhausted husk out for the next game against Philly. Like I feel bad because obviously I think that Montembeault's in over his head. He was never meant to be this guy, right? He's never meant to be the starter for a playoff team. Let's be perfectly honest. When they plucked him off waivers, it was kind of a tank move. They were trying to lose games. He has been a great story. No matter how this year ends, if it ends poorly, I want to avoid insulting his value. I think it's still a great story. Just like David Desharnais, a little guy from our backyard that came and ended up playing for his childhood team and ended up doing some pretty cool things. This is a guy that went from waivers to representing Canada at the World Championship and being named, the MVP of the tournament for Canada. Obviously, he didn't play at the Four Nations tournament, but the fact that he was there makes Montembeault's story an excellent one. And regardless of all the social media criticism, I think at the end of the day, we have to recognize this has been just an amazing journey for a guy that was never supposed to be here.
I completely agree with that.
Remini thinks, should we be worried about the Canadiens goalie coach? I don't know. Listen, if I look at Dobesh and Montembeault, I'm not sure if I think that's a pairing that brings you to the playoffs. And I'm not trying to insult them, but like in prestige and hype, they're not exactly guys that you're picking first overall in your fantasy pools, right? So I don't know, and who knows what they're doing, right, with the goalie coaching. The one guy I always thought got too much credit was Stefan Waite with Price. Like it bothered me how much credit he got. And the second things went terribly, he just disappeared. And the second things went well, he's doing pressers again. He took all the credit for Carey Price, and I think that was bullshit. But no, I don't honestly, I don't think I wouldn't start blaming the coaching staff at this point. It's just two guys that combined make what, $3 million, $4 million. Like that's a not even a starter salary between both of them, right? No. So yeah, the Habs are like Montembeault was never meant to be this guy, and he's done much better than anticipated. So maybe we need to give the goalie coaches more credit.
Sorry, I did not realize how bad the Flyers are.
Oh, they're terrible.
At this point.
They're absolutely terrible.
I believe they won one in their last 12 or something of this.
So this is totally a trap game. This is going to be a trap game.
It's so over, Mark.
Yeah.
We're so bad. It's so over.
Hey, David's heading out, just saying you liked the stream. Yeah, look forward to watching the next one. It will be on Thursday, and it will be actually, I may as well say it now. You probably won't see me hosting again. Not just the end of the year, just like going forward. I won't be able to host now. The reason being, and it's not, listen, I love all of you. I love working with Kay and Andrew. I have brutal insomnia, and it's to the point that like I'm kind of reaching my breaking point. Like I'm not sleeping for 3 or 4 days at a time. So for the end of the year, it will be Kay doing a lot of it, and it will be Andrew. And I want to thank them so much for picking up the slack here, because I was supposed to do the most games this year, and it was Kay that actually ended up doing the most games. So big ups to Kay for taking over, because it's been like you've been excellent this year, and we really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. But we love you, Mark. I know we all just want you to take care of yourself.
Yeah, well, it's gotten to that point where like I used to go no sleep, no problem. During COVID with the Habs, I was an idiot. They asked me, they said, do you mind not wearing a mask when you go and you do like your in-arena stuff? And I said, absolutely not. I've rarely been sick in my life. I caught COVID 3 times while I worked with them, right? So yeah, and ever since then, and you can tell now, like I'm tired, but I'm tearing up a little bit. One of the things I have a hard time with is controlling my emotions. And it's been like really, really tough just to interact with people. So I have to get to the point where I'm cutting out probably hockey entirely. That's like the next step for me. So like it sucks, but at the same time, not sleeping for 3 or 4 days in a row is hellish. It is absolutely hellish. So I have no choice. I have to get it under control. It's as simple as that. I'm not leaving per se, Outrage, but I'll be around. I just don't like, I'm going to try to do afternoon games, stuff like that. The issue with me is I get so pumped when I talk hockey with all of you. So after these streams, even if I didn't have insomnia, I'd stay up for 4, 5, 6 hours, because I'm just thinking of the whole show, what I did wrong, what I could improve, what the Habs did. and I just can't anymore. So like if I, like, for example, like tonight, I know I'm not going to sleep. So that'll be about 4 days, no sleep. I just can't do it. Like I am so dead tired that, yeah, like common everyday things. The other day I went to the grocery store. I left my front door wide open. like it's stupid mistakes. It's Mike Matheson style mistakes. So I'm going to, I will be,
We're cheering for you the way that we cheer when Lane Hudson has the puck.
there you go.
We're cheering for you hard.
Exactly. And if the Habs make the playoffs, then sure, maybe I'll pop back in. But yeah, for now, it's just I got to take care of myself. On that note, we're going to talk to we're not going to talk to them. We're just going to hear from our good friends at Le Same Hotel. We'll be back in just about 1 minute.
Looking to make awesome memories with your friends? Take some promotional pictures or videos for your business? Check out Le Saint Motel in Montreal's Sud-West borough. It's an amazing selfie studio located in Montreal's historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, right next to Inchu Bijou. It boasts 12 plus unique decors for you to enjoy and make memories with. Hop into their iconic heart-shaped ball pit, or transport yourself back in time to Expo 67. Le Saint Motel can also come to you with mobile decor setups available to rent for events, including setup and takedown, or you can head to lesaintmotel.com right now for more details, or to check out their amazing decors that are always being updated. Now, let's get back to the show, but before you do, make sure you subscribe to Game Over Montreal, Game Over Network, and smash like on this video because it really helps us out.
Just heard from our good friend Andrew. So we'll jump into if there's any questions. Oh, someone mentioned Remy. Yeah, Lori. Okay, what happened this year is that for the guests, we just it is it's not a headache. It's just so much extra work to get another guest to come. When I do these, I actually, I'm working the 5 hours before, right? So from about 6 o'clock to the end of the game, I'm writing for my website. And then I have to wait for guests. It would take like an extra hour. And it was just absolutely, again, this was me last year. I figured this year I'm not going to do too many guests. I'll be less tired. And it helped. It helped a lot. But obviously, people like Lori haven't had a chance to speak. And she was fantastic. So maybe one of the angles I might take here is maybe work on getting guests for people, because I do have some decent connections, and maybe we can compensate for having Lori on here once will compensate for not having me on here all year. So we'll see what yeah, don't use that term, Emily, old lady. She's absolutely not. She's I'm pretty sure she's right about my age, and she's quicker, smarter, and a lot wittier than I am. So we're not going to go down that road. But if there's any kind of guests that you would like us to get, mention it, and I'll see what I can do. I can maybe bug our good friend Owen Beck, see if he wants to come on, or I've been speaking to Suzuki's parents a lot lately, but just in a joking fashion. Mr. Suzuki keeps jumping into my DMs, and we're laughing at ref calls and stuff, but he's not Mr. Suzuki at that point. He's just another Habs fan. Mm-hmm. So we'll see maybe if he wants to jump on. If there are any questions, go ahead and drop them in there. And Kay, was there anything else that you wanted to hit on before we end this episode?
Not really. I guess the only thing is, how are we feeling about just how lucky we are to have Nick Suzuki as our captain and first line center, which is what he is.
It's funny today. I saw the.
What I'm gonna hit.
I saw all the people that had, those fucking player cards, those goddamn stupid player cards. They're great. Listen, I use a lot of them. I use Evolving Wild. I go check out JFresh's stuff. The Rano guy, not a big fan of him. That being said, those cards are so frustrating because you can come up with a absolutely great explanation. So, oh yeah, look at this fucking card. It says -32. Explain it to me. Tell me what that means. There should be a law. If you use those cards, those player cards, you have to understand what they mean. If not, it's absolutely useless. You're talking out of your ass. So all of those player cards that used to judge Nick Suzuki as number 2 center, coincidentally, in the last week, they all came up with a refresher. Oh yeah, he's a first line center. They finally caught on after years and years and years. Yeah. Let's be honest, it wasn't Nick Suzuki that was the issue in the past years. This year, Slavkovsky and Caulfield have gone up a notch. Lane Hudson, boom, huge difference in his quality of teammates. To me, that's the biggest difference this year. I really think Suzuki's been this good for the last couple of years, but the rest of the team is catching up to him. So Sorry, that was I cut that sentence
No.
off pretty quickly.
No, no, I listen. I wanted to hear it because I've read your articles, which by the way, Mark had a great one about that. Just kind of going over. Mark's very good about making stats accessible, I think, because I get really overwhelmed about them, frankly. So a lot of his like writing just kind of makes stats digestible. So honestly, even if you're not interested necessarily in that player, just go for get a good. It just gives you like here's the stat, here's kind of what it says, and you could apply that to other players. So just
I,
want to
yeah.
give people a heads up. Great place to learn.
That's because I fought with a lot of one of the biggest issues with I find with the data analysis people. They're all the really smart people. Don't get me wrong, but the communication skills weren't there. Like there was such a divide between them and the traditional media and the fans, and they were making it so contrived, so complicated, just to make it more complicated. And then I had my friend Bruce Peter, who used to work at Eyes on the Prize with me. I was writing an article and I wrote 2 decimals, and he's like, who the hell cares? Why would you care if one guy's got 8.42? Why don't you just make it 8.4 or even 8? He's like, make it a lot more so he actually guided me towards a more digestible version of analysis. And listen, as you can see, I'm not the smartest guy out there, and if I can figure it out, anyone else can. But if you've been frustrated in the past, it's not your fault. It's the person has done a poor job communicating the stats, right? And we really don't need to go crazy with these numbers either, but I will say this. Sure, he's the 7th most productive center this year. That means obviously he's a number 1 center. But when we look, and Andrew was the one that pointed me towards this, his goals above replacement is top 10 in the entire league, not just centers. Top 10 in the entire NHL, which means only 9 other players make a bigger impact over the season than Nick Suzuki has. The first 2 centers, he's the 5th center, I believe, if we just cut it down. The first 2 centers, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. So it goes to show that, and then there's what's the name of the guy from Washington? That's not Dubois. That's just absolute.
Grotus something.
Hold on, I remember being like, why the hell is this guy here? Either way, he's actually right above Suzuki, but right now, from a purely statistical point of view, only 4 other centers make a greater impact in the NHL than Nick Suzuki does, which means he's not just a number 1 center. He's among the best centers in the NHL, statistically speaking, and that's a fact.
Yes.
I do like that they finally today that everyone's coming up with, oh yeah, he might be a number 1 center. Yeah. You wait for the dumb guy to do the analysis and then they jump on it. Tisk. Beyond that, also, if anyone wants to take a look, I wrote about Lane Hudson's defensive impact. The rumors of Hudson being a poor defender are stupid. They're not just greatly exaggerated, they're dumb. Listen, okay, right now there's only one guy on the team and forwards that has a Corsi over 50 and an expected goals over 50. Who do you think that guy is? Quiz time.
David Savard.
God damn it, Kay. No, but seriously, who do you...
Did I get it? Right?
You were super close. If my question was 30%, you would have been super close. But there's one forward who I think epitomizes the heart and soul of the team this year, and he's the number 1 on that list, and it is Brendan Gallagher.
Wow.
Nick Suzuki is right up there. Like, he's right about to crack the 50% expected goals. And then the only other guy is Lane Hudson. So you have a rookie who's producing better underlying numbers than anyone else on the team. Everyone that plays with him, their numbers immediately improve. And you're telling me he's bad defensively? We are so archaic in how we define good defense. Because to me, Lane Hudson keeps the puck 200 feet away from the goalie. That is good defense. Yeah, he's going to give the puck up. Absolutely. I saw Bobby Orr give the puck up like 12 times in a game versus the Habs. He was still a great defenseman. So all these bullshit cards that are saying Hudson's not a good defenseman, I right away, I'm doing what I used to do 20 years ago, but it was the other way around. I'm the mainstream media guy that's saying, I don't want to listen to it because that is garbage. and let's be honest, it's old data. So those cards, most of it's his time with Savard, and I don't want to be mean, but playing with David Savard is difficult. It's very, very difficult. He's the only guy that Hudson didn't manage to bring over 50% is David Savard.
So there's that veteran's presence bringing something that nobody else can.
Yeah, like donuts from, I used to do that for my beer league. I was the veteran presence, but I knew I got to bring beer and donuts or else. What am I doing here? Hold on, I'm gonna actually, can you check out the chat because I lost it on my phone. But if
Yeah,
there's
Trinka is
yes,
asking,
yeah, go ahead.
asking a question. Which website or person to follow would you suggest to help understand stats better? Uh, Mark, I'll hand that one over to you.
Yeah, well, okay, so I will, and people have complained about this, but I re-explain the stat every time I use it. Okay, so if I go to use Corsi 4, okay, you've heard Corsi. Guess what? It's just shots. That's all it is. Corsi is shots. Now, we shot ourselves in the foot because you know what it was? It was the Washington Capitals backup goalie. I believe his name was goalie coach was Jim Corsi. And he wanted to come up with a way because he figured like the goalies are still doing work even if the shot misses. So he wanted to figure out their work rate. So that's how they came up with the Corsi. Dumb name, but just think of it of shots. And then the shots that hit the goalie are shots on net. That's it. So one is Corsi 4 and the other one's shot percentage. Very, very simple. The other one, expected goals, gets a little more complicated, but I will explain it every single time. So maybe what I'll do is I'll come up with a refresher because it's been a while and it's always up to us to do a better job to explain it. So maybe what I'll do there, and that's a good point you bring up, just that there's not that many explainers, but I would follow, oh my God, Allison. She hosts the Seattle Kraken post-game, mid-game. Either way, she's incredibly smart, but she's not just affable. She presents it in a way that everyone can understand. So Allison and who else would I say we would follow for that? She's probably the best one out there. I'd say Mike Kelly does a pretty good job explaining it. He uses all his numbers from Sportlogic, so we don't have access to that. It's a bit weird, but definitely Allison for Seattle. Like Seattle did such a great job with her. They brought her in, they got her to explain all this stuff, and they put her on the broadcast show. Like what the Kraken did with Seattle was the smartest move they could have ever done. And I mean,
yeah, I put her Twitter in the chat for those.
There you go. Yeah, and also Allison's the best. Like she is absolutely great. And I mean, I think she has an Emmy, which is funny because a lot of people will try to criticize her. They're like, "Oh, you suck at what you do." She's like, "Oh, hold on, let me just post my picture with an Emmy to not give a shit about what you think." So she's a boss. She's a boss there. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try to pull up the chat there for a second, so you can go ahead if you have anything. I just want to see what the last few comments are, because I'll be logging off for a long time here, I think.
Vermelli also suggests a hockey guy. I could slide into his DMs. Listen, I've been very shy about this, but every single time I've had a guest on, they've been great. And it's always really fun to bring, to get somebody else's perspective. I have a problem where I have trouble, if I disagree, I have trouble disagreeing. But you know what? I can only learn once I have more guests on, because I know that all the lovely people we'll have are people who want to have a dialogue, which is how these things should work.
Yeah.
But Trzak also has a question. If you
Shayna is the other person that I should have mentioned. She does a lot of the shows with Allison, but Shayna, and I'll find her. But she's also in the Too Many Men podcast with Allison and Sarah Sivian. So that's a pretty good podcast. If you want to check it out, Too Many Men. I'm a big fan. I'll be honest, and this is going to sound bad, I don't listen to too many podcasts, but that is one that I actually do go out of my way because they're intelligent. They don't force it. They don't need to try to appear intelligent. It's just natural. You know what I mean? And that I like. Like they're not lording over you in any sense. And I think a lot of the times when it comes to data analysis, that's an issue. It's that I am smarter than you. You shall listen to me. They do not. They don't make you feel inferior. I think that's the important part here. And they do a really great job communicating just the intricacies of. But I'm telling you right now, it's not. We should have never called them advanced stats. Never in our life should we have called them advanced stats. We shouldn't call it Corsi. The nerds, we shot ourselves in the foot with that because we made it too complicated to begin with. If it would have been called shots, do you think anyone would have complained about Corsi?
Shots 2.0.
Corsi sounds stupid. Let's be perfectly honest. It makes no sense. But that is why the data analysts are behind the scenes, and we get super smart people like Shayna and Allison and Sarah to explain the stats for us. But don't ever hold yourself back. If you have a question, you can send it to me on Twitter. I will spend the time, but trust me, you'll be able to get it. You will absolutely be able to understand it. Trzak asks, if Martin Saint-Louis doesn't trust Dobesh, does he not trust Dobesh? I think he does. I just think he trusts I think Kay really nailed it earlier. He just wants to show Montembeault that he believes in him.
That he's his guy.
Yeah, is signing Fowler a possibility? Oh, now you just hit on one of my do not do's. That's not the way I should have said that, but Jacob Fowler is doing great. Now the thing is, he's playing behind a Boston College team that is also dominant. Like Gabe Perreault. We don't need to name the players, but Boston College. Last I checked, they had a hard time at the Beanpot. I think Boston University won. Either way, they're a great team. They're going to go deep in the Frozen Four. So Jacob Fowler hasn't really enjoyed Montreal Canadiens hockey, to put it that way. He's been the goalie that's had to make they suck defensively and they will allow high quality chances, but 3 per game. So
Yeah.
I don't see the rush right now because you have, actually maybe next year with Primo's out of the picture, if Dobesh is back up, I guess you do need Fowler, don't you? Is Primo's contract's up, right? I'm going to check that right now.
I have no idea.
Well, either way, I don't like the idea of rushing him.
Answer the Dobesh thing. Yeah, don't rush him. Also, if he's not gonna trust Dobesh, what makes you think he's gonna trust Fowler? And I honestly will stick behind, and I think everybody kind of agrees with this, or most people do. Anyways, Mark does, who's everybody to me right now. He's the person I'm talking to, and the chat as well. Sorry, just I went on a rant there, but I think it's more about Monty than it is either. It could be any other goal. If it was Primo, the way he was performing as backup, of course, that doesn't leave a choice. But I think it could be any even mid backup, and I think Marty would still stick with his guy because I think that's what he thinks is the correct course. Hopefully he, of course,
it's just that, and putting Fowler into the mix here again, it's just such a different style of play. One of the things that they say once you go from a goalie to NCAA to say AHL, one of the biggest differences the goalies that have done it have told me, they're like, listen, it's endurance, right? Because we practice a ton in the NCAA, but they play 30 games or so, right? You jump to a professional setting, you're up to 60 games, and the amount of endurance, and not just physical, mental preparation it takes a while for them to really adapt. I don't think there's ever been a goalie that has been kept too long in the pressure cooker, you know what I mean? Or not the slow cooker. Whereas you have a laundry list of guys that have been ruined by bringing them up fast, right? Yeah. Primo is the ultimate example now. They had promised Primo to be the backup to Carey Price right away and everything fell apart. They haven't done that with Fowler. But I just don't see the need to rush him. And I would love to see him back in Boston College next year because they're going to be a much weaker team and then his workload would go up. That being said, listen, he's supremely talented. They might push it through. I just don't love the idea of leaving a goalie just 2 years in the NCAA. It's become a trend a little bit with the Habs. And Dobesh, okay, it's working out, but he had a bit of a hard time too when he came to the AHL. So no rush when it comes to Jacob Fowler. And if you need to get a backup goalie in the AHL or bring in Connor Hughes for another year, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. The Habs, even if they're good next year, they're not going to be ready to compete quite yet, right? And you want Fowler to be there right when they're about to start to be a very good team. And that won't be next year. So personally, don't rush the goaltender. That's always look at tonight. Jordan Binnington, he spent 47 years in the ECHL and the AHL and until he finally made it. So I honestly, I think his first start was when he was 26 or something in the NHL. There's no rush. There's never a rush when it comes to goaltenders.
Like you said, I don't think there can ever be in the slow cooker, as you said, too long. I love that, the slow cooker versus the pressure cooker.
I kind of screwed up the. You know what's funny? I was making.
No, it's genuinely hilarious. It's a great metaphor.
I was actually because I went over to I was over in Ontario for about a week because I was just watching my godson and anyways. Whatever. And I was making a meal when they were coming back because it had been, I just wanted them to have food when they came back to their house because I was essentially house sitting. And for the first half hour, I had put, it was a delicious brisket, but I put it in a pressure cooker instead of a slow cooker, which absolutely completely changed. But hey, man, they look almost identical. Anyways, I caught it and I switched it and it was the most just delicious brisket you'll ever have, but I almost destroyed the brisket. So that is a nice metaphor for you. Don't throw Dobesh in that pressure cooker. Put him in the slow cooker. You set it, you forget it, and then you'll have some delicious brisket. And that honestly, that's my my prospect suggestion for every single player. No rush. There's no rush whatsoever. I know people are saying they want Oliver Kapanen to jump in right away. There was even some talk about Michael Hage. What are we doing here? I know it's exciting to have young guys, but like, take a deep breath. They're not going to make a difference for the Habs right now. And what they will do is that it'll kick in their more expensive contracts down the road quicker. You know what I mean? I just don't see the value. But I get it. It's good. People are excited.
Make them not worth that contract, which is worse for us. So we want them to be expensive, guys. We want that. We want them to be worth a lot. And then hopefully get them for less.
Exactly. Trizak says, Montembeault to Martin Saint-Louis as Bouillon was to Terrien. True or false? Yeah. Probably. Now, I don't think I saw a guy, Francis Bouillon, hit shin pad. You know how everyone complains that like Matheson hits shin pads in the power play? Francis Bouillon hit the most shin pads I'll ever see in the league. It was 40 shin pads per night. But yeah, I'll still say this though. At the end of his career, Francis Bouillon was still a decent player. He's still putting up. And like he's shorter than I am, and I'm 5'0". He might be the strongest guy in the league at one point when he was like, I don't know if you guys remember how strong Francis Bouillon was, but he was that small guy that you just never messed with because he was just short and stocky. And if you want to see a really good play, Google Bouillon knocks out Tucker. And it's just this beautiful play with Darcy Tucker trying to be a tough guy. The rest get between them. And then once the rest get between them, Bouillon was ready to fight because Tucker hit him dirty. Bouillon wanted to fight.
Yeah.
Tucker pulls off. The refs get there. And then Tucker punches him once both refs were there. What does Francis Bouillon do?
Ooh.
Turns around, boom, knocks him down. There goes between both refs. Now here's the best part. I'm pretty sure Tucker got the double penalty and Bouillon just got a minor on that. So if you want to go see, and it's right up there with the Alexei Kovalev on Tucker, the elbow. The Habs had a lot of fun games with him, and Bouillon, I think his whole sequence with Tucker was better than the Kovalev play. So if you have a chance, just Google that. Bouillon Tucker, hilarious. And Pierre Houd says piff. That's how he like reacts to the punch to the face. Is piff dans le face. Or no, it wasn't Pierre Houd. It was the other guy that was. Anyways, piff is how it's titled on PIF on Twitter. Piff dans la face. But if you go for the English version, just check out our good friend Bouillon. Absolutely one punching Darcy Tucker. And if you didn't know Darcy Tucker, he deserved it. Trust me. Hey, salut, Marc Sianquita says, Je déteste les Blues de Saint-Louis. Yeah, well, absolutely. I think the Blues are, I wouldn't mind cheering for them. Listen, Jordan Binnington's not the most.
No, that's our lovely Game Over host from Vancouver. And okay. I know that that entire fan base was depending on us.
On the Habs, like, yeah, okay, that's why. So we failed them.
I was like, guys, come on.
The Habs failed them miserably. Yeah. Sorry about that.
They have to not fail us. I think they're playing the Islanders or something. So, guys, return the favor we didn't do.
Right? I do think that good things could come for the Habs, and they're listening. They're playing against the Panthers twice, the Hurricanes twice. So that's right there. That's the playoffs, essentially, is those four. You have to, because you still have to beat the bad teams, but you have to beat the good teams. The Habs are going to make it in right now. So as it stands, though, before we leave you, the Habs are actually still in a pretty good playoff situation. Their odds are hovering at 50%. You might think that's not great, but the Rangers, 25%. The Blue Jackets, 20%. The Islanders, 22%. The Red Wings, we don't want to be mean, but we add them. They're there, 6%. Even with tonight's terrible loss, the Montreal Canadiens are actually in a pretty good position to make the playoffs. But they just can't have nights like they had tonight. You know, they just can't make decisions that are based on honoring a veteran. You have to me, if Jakub Dobeš doesn't start the next game, then there's a major issue. Like, I'm going to throw some drama in there. But honestly, I feel like there's a major issue with trust and also with just the leaving emotions aside when it comes to decision making. And I feel like Martin Saint-Louis has done such a good job in a lot of things. But to me, goaltenders are still his blind spot. He really, really struggles. Tonight, after goal 3, that was time to get Montembeault out of there because the game was still the game. You could have changed the game, and he didn't even call a timeout. All right, that's the issue there. But hey, listen, Martin Saint-Louis is learning a lot, and I think that's one of the last things that he has to really nail is how to use goaltenders.
And he's really learned a lot this season, I'd say. Also, for Habs fans watching, just so I hope it's everybody. I'm gonna stop talking. My point being, the Wings lost 5-2 to my Colorado Avalanche today. So listen, one more thing to be happy about if we want.
I feel right now, if you're a Red Wings fan and you're looking at the Habs, you're like, what the hell? What the hell? Because the Red Wings started this a little earlier, but then they pressed fast forward, and to me, I respect Steve Yzerman as an amazing leader and he was so enjoyable to watch on the ice. He was really like one of the good guys, right? And that goal he scored in the playoffs against the Blues, that top corner slap shot will always be one of the most classic goals in the NHL. I don't think he's a good general manager. I honestly think he's like the Yzer plan. I don't know what it is, and I don't think he knows what it is.
It doesn't work every time. Sometimes you're Joe Sakic, and sometimes sometimes you're a few other. Not gonna start naming names.
Exactly. Well, the good news is with the Habs is even if things will change going forward for where they're going to make the playoffs or not, I think Kent Hughes is not going to be pushed towards pressing fast forward by the fan base. Now, listen, the Red Wings hadn't made the playoffs in a billion years, so like there's some pressure there, maybe a little less in Montreal, but it will start to mount, and I think Habs fans should be pretty confident with Hughes, just in terms of how he sticks to his plan and he doesn't panic. Those are great assets to have for a GM in this kind of market.
I would agree with that.
All right, and hey, listen, we're gonna talk. I know you have the afternoon game, right, against Florida.
I believe so.
Okay, I might take that from you. I might steal that from you so that I give you a little bit of break and I'll actually be able to do it. So you will probably see me once more by the time the season ends. And if it's in the playoffs, I'll probably show up again. But
we're around E's anyway, so I think we're good.
Exactly. But so I just want to thank everyone. Thank obviously Kay, and we'll see you the next time. And if I don't jump on, it's been a ton of fun. Seriously, I've loved all of this. Whoa. Classy. All right. So, and that being said, and if it's the last time, I got to do it. Bye, Claire. Bye.